everything. At the end of the day, women are really very fatigued, and they know next to nothing about safety. Then you shut him down, and then you got a call from all the powers that matters. And then they tell you the queue on the filling station is caused by the DPR. These are some of the challenges that we have in regulating. So how do you balance the need of the people with regulating? Becomes a challenge. And again, even in siting of projects, one of our major requirements is if you want to site a retail outlet, whether for gas or for filling station, that area must be an area that is designated by the host state or local government as industrial area for such project. And then they come to us, especially in virgin areas that you don't have so much of buildings. And then they come to us with an approval from the necessary authority from the area. You approve the project to be sited. 3-6 months down the line, you find a residential area sharing fence with the place, and then everybody's calling DPR. Meanwhile, we were working with the framework of the regulation that is allowable at that time. But the question is, are we going to close our eyes because the errors have been made and just keep tolerating it? The answer is no. The truth is, the Nigerians need the jobs that have been created. Do we have to shut down all the facilities? No. We have had to go back and look at the problems that have been created and look at how we can manage them, how we can create safety barriers to be able to mitigate them and allow people work in a safe manner, but they're not without challenges. If you go to Apapa, for instance, you will tell me that you agree with me that you will not love the array of tank farms that you've seen. And what have we done? We began to group these people into clusters and look at the common safety implications that they have and sensitize them to realize, look, you are competitors, so to say. But when it comes to HSE issues, you can't be competitors. So you must put resources together and be able to make things that are functional for you. And we work with them. We've seen a lot of improvement. Rather than allow them exist independently, those things that you need that can improve safety, we make a group of 3-4 of them to have a cluster and put resources for them. At a point, we even had to go with Lagos State Ministry of Energy to work with them and show them what we've done. And they're still collaborating with us to be able to ensure that. And a lot of accidents have also happened in the downstream industry that have caused us to take a paradigm shift from what it used to be to a new enabling kind of incident management or methods of being able to address things. And that has also caused us to begin to align with a lot of other government agencies. Take, for instance, the road safety, federal road safety. We've had to have a lot of collaboration with them. We did a survey between 2005 and 2017, and we found out that 2,800 and something accidents that happened in the downstream sector was from road truck haulage, and they did not happen within our facilities. They were on the road. And what is the problem? The drivers, most of the drivers were drunk because they stopped at one paraga joint, and they, what can we do to stop this? All that, we are working with them, and they are honestly collaborating. And again, when it comes to like the gas bottle sellers, the cylinder sellers, we've heard of several issues of people's cylinders exploding in the kitchen, and they called us DPR. Whereas we are not the people regulating them, but they're carrying the product that comes from our industry. And then when we go back, where did you buy your gas from? We sample. Again, go back to resample. The problem is not from her gas. Then it means it is expired cylinder. So we begin to say, what can we do to help? Radio jingles, flyers, and all that to educate the people. We're now working with the gas depot owners to produce flyers even in the local languages, how to survey your cylinder. We are talking to SON. on things that can be done to certify cylinders and validity of cylinders. So you see, the problem is enormous. And even when it comes to truck haulage drivers, what do? We don't have control over them. The other day, we were going through audit on a depot, and a truck driver was sleeping, and we perceived incense, mosquito incense smell. And then we told the security to look around. What did we find out? The man was sleeping in a truck that has already been loaded, and he said mosquito was biting him. So he was burning, carrying 33 liters to say, how do we certify drivers that will carry petroleum products? All this we are doing. And all these engagements has led to, yes, please, yeah, I will soon round up, has led to a lot of new regulations, reviews of our regulations. I will not be able to go through them one after the other, and that, so on and so forth. But our goal, and the goal of every one of us here, seated here, should aim at closing the gap. And I know that that's what Lagos State is trying to do with Vision Zero. How do we close the gap? For us, we want to close the gap through strict enforcement of existing guidelines in approval and licensing processes. We might have to review the requirements for licensing and enforcement of equipment certification by SON for cylinders. We will review some facilities inspection and strategy. We will also ensure implementation of standard operating procedure, even at grassroots. And again, we will continue to develop and employ robust safety training for all personnel working in the sector. And regular sensitization meetings, which we've also told them, like the operators, in your corridors, their greatest risk is outside your facilities. You must sensitize the people around you. On radio, we are already doing this with Radio Nigeria, but we intend to go to even Radio Lagos in local languages. It's expensive, but we have to do it because life is more valuable than money. I want to just use this to summarize what safety depicts. Now, that is what you don't want to have, incident. And that incident, you must always have in mind that incident is your opponent when you are in the field playing football. So you don't want to have him. So the first thing you have to do is to ensure that your equipment are in perfect condition. That is your first defense line. And then the next thing is that your equipment layout must be in order. We've had situations where we've approved a site, but when it came to their equipment layout, they had to lay the equipment layout was facing the risk factors of their neighbors, and that escalated their own risk. And the next thing you want to do is safety and signs notification. They must be clear and visible for people. And then you must create safe distance, buffer zone in your installations. And then reports when you have issues and certification where applicable. And then the next to the last is that you must have a workable, viable, and applicable standard operating procedure. You don't just have them written up because they are regulatory requirements. And finally, is staff training. Staff training is your goalkeeper. If anything happens to your goalkeeper or you allow all these defense that you have to become weak, you are constantly exposing your staff to risk. That means you are constantly exposing your goalkeeper to the attack of your opponent. And that means very soon you will be out of the game. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ati Umfom. Next, I'll quickly invite General Manager, Medical Services, Nigerian Ports Authority, Dr. Mrs. C.I. Abana. Let's make the applause much more resounding, please.
Excuse me, I want to be very clear. This side. the Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission, Senator Dixon. This is a tall order. Please permit me to stand on existing protocol. My name is Dr. Chinwe Abama. I'm the General Manager, Medical Services, Nigerian Ports Authority. And I am here to deliver this paper on behalf of the Managing Director, Hadiza Bala Usman, at this conference, and it is focused on zero harm method. Before I go in, just a little preamble. As we all know, zero harm is a controversial and debated topic in safety culture priorities in business environments. While we employees, but there are some people who also believe that it is not attainable, it is not achievable, simply because of the kind of risks that prevail around the work environment, and of course the unrealistic targets that we have. Again, there is another school of thought, of course, like commitment to the staff, and therefore we raise motivation and morale, and of course you are driving efficiency and productivity. Now, I want to tell you about a research that was done by Byron Institute. It establishes that the probability that a passenger would die in a scheduled airline flight was 1 in 10 million departures. I know a lot of people may not know. Chances that a person would die in a nuclear power accident near their community was 1 in 100 million per year. And then the chances that a patient will die from human error in a hospital is 1,000 in admission, 1 in 1,000 admissions. Why we are saying this? Because it's minimal, and we are getting towards the zero harm concept. Now, I am very I have a bias for this particular projection that I'm given. It was done by a professor of psychology who has a primary interest in human performance in hazardous systems, psychology of human error, the way people and organizational processes contribute to the complex breakdown of complex, well-defined technologies, such as the commercial aviation, which was just done, and then the nuclear power generation, process plants, railways, marine operations, and financial service and health institutions. He said that human error eliminated. Errors are not intrinsically bad. Success and failure will spring from the same psychological roots. Without them, we could neither learn nor acquire skills that are essential to safe and efficient work. And then again, he now says that errors are consequences, not errors, not causes. Errors have a history. If you discover an error, it is the beginning of a search for the cause and not the end. And you have to understand the sacrifice hope to limit the chances of recurrence. Now, I just want to tell you, if I show you these pictures, you will know that that is a regular thing that you see. I'm sure this is very, very familiar to you. For those that apply different routes, Oshodi and Apapa and Ko, can see a lot of oil tankers lined up in the metropolis, a lot of traffic, vehicular traffic. Then you can see this. This is a container in the port. Have you seen this kind of accident before? What do you think about it? It's terrible. You see the container falling off, another container in the port, and you have the cargo handling equipment by the side. Of course, it's not very clear, but these are the containers that are stacked and that, tripping over each other. I remember that we had a case at one time, many years ago in the port. The man actually fell from the deck, from the top of the container, and fell down onto the deck. He was rushed, and we rushed him to Ibobi, but he died on the spot. He died soon after that. Accidents in the places and all that you can see, colliding with or having this vehicle going under the container, the trailer. What's happening? It's not moving. Okay. And this is very common again. You can see it with all the pollution. Look at the dumping ground on our roads, and look at how muddy our roads are, the containers, and you have people passing by. Even I can see some people on the dump site trying to pick things in from there. The man that is in the vehicle, the saloon, he's opening his car and look at the dumping just by it. I can imagine how many flies that are going in there into him. I can imagine what is breathing, the air pollution that you have. I'm not doing this. Look at that one again. Is this in Apapa or something? Because you have a lot of flood in Apapa. Look at that tanker passing. It's lucky that it is big enough that it can wade through. You can imagine some other small vehicles who want to go through this particular route that gets stuck there. And then you now cause a lot of traffic behind again. And of course, the regular Okadas, you can see our Okadas that are trying to ply the route meandering. I don't know, this is not going. This is a particular scene in Ojueleba. I think you remember that a few days ago again, there was a container that fell over. You can see that, and of course, killed a lot of people. It's not the first time that it's happening. It has happened a couple of times, and I think we need to do something about it. Yes? Yes. Oh my God. Now, I know you heard so much about zero harm. I'm not going to bore you with the definition. There are so many concepts from different angles. Some people believe it will work. Some people do not believe it will work. Harm to anyone, anytime. No harm to anyone, anytime while at work. It is also the underlying philosophy that workplaces want to achieve. Of course, the successful organization and high reliability organizations, they rely on building a very good a safety culture in the workplace that collectively strives to achieve. It is valued and it is prioritized within an organization, and also there must be commitment to safety at all levels. So you have value and you have priority and you have commitment at all levels that will give you a safety culture. You remember that there are even the best design systems can fail without a safety culture. People like to cut corners and make unsafe decisions and judgments. According to the same, you remember we talked about, oh, sorry, what happened? Do I go back? Please come to my help. Okay. Now, the same professor, the psychologist that I mentioned, Professor Reason, after his research, he did a lot of research on, human psychology and the psychology of human errors. He established that 10 to 20% of actions contribute to bad events are due to individual issues, complacency, while the remaining inadequate equipment, misleading or incorrect maintenance, task information, design issues, inadequate task handover, process task interruption, and time pressure. Now, I'm not going to talk about, we know all about the Vision Zero, 7 golden rules, we've talked about it. I'm going to flip it. And I just want to inform you that at the 21st Congress on Safety and Health at Work, held in Singapore in 2017, Nigerian Ports Authority participated and became a partner of the Vision Zero campaign with the International Social Security Association and ILO. Yes, now we have come to the main discussion today. That is Nigerian Ports Authority. And this is the port of the Lagos Apapa Keys. That's the premier port of Nigerian Ports Authority. Nigerian Ports Authority, as you know, is the gateway to the nation's economy. It's the custodian of the nation's seaports. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the reform so that you can understand this mindset change, how we transited from the old to the new. Prior to the port reforms, the authority was saddled with the following functions in accordance with its Enabling Act: directly utilizing in-house resources. Unfortunately, that didn't work so well. These were all the functions. I'm not going to say them because of time. These were all the functions that NPA had to do. But then following, because of, at that time, there was no The key objective of the port reform was to increase efficiency in the port operations, decrease port services to stakeholders, and decrease cost to government for the support of viable port sector and attract sector participation. MP adopted a model of port management which led a landlord model, which led to concession of the port terminal. So sometimes when you come and see MPA Total, MPA concessioned some of the terminals that are responsive and robust in line with international best practices. Again, it became evident in its new vision. That's a change in mindset. Again, we are in a safe, secure, and customer-friendly environment. And to attain this vision, there was a major focus on occupational health, safety, environment, and marine operations by MPA management, a compelling need for installation of modern and competitive approach in management with increased expertise, skills, and standards to drive various processes in realization of our objectives. Now, the new vision of MPA is set a stage for a process of re-engineering, reorientation, refocusing of organizational needs, and mass sensitization programs for employees at various levels to create more awareness, secure their cooperation, so as to gradually embrace the needed change. In line with the existing statutes on HSC division was created. The HSC division formulated the authority's HSC policy, which is a guiding document. It looks like I'm not doing this well. I'm going back. Okay. Back. To facilitate feedback and prompt decision making, the division was subdivided into safety and certification of HSC personnel in various courses, as listed there. Additionally, officers in each department were given specific training that helped to enthrone a new safety awareness and culture. Now, HSC operations were decentralized subsequently, such that the port managers, they were granted autonomy and resources in line with the budgetary provisions to manage HSC issues in their respective ports. Like I said, you know, we have 6 ports. And the operational template adopted in the ports is driven by the HSC committee, comprising of M in the port environment. I did mention to you that the terminals were, were concessioned. So obviously the HSC committees were now collaborating with their counterparts in the port terminals within the port environment. And the committees met periodically. So that created a forum for synergy in action with relevant stakeholders. This happens to be that the safety incident statistics in just the Apapa port from 2010, from 102 to 18 in 2017. And because, like I mentioned to you, safety is, I decided to take safety up, and I put a list of what the safety department does, because they do safety inspection, as you see, of engineering, maintenance, repair, construction projects. And then in the organization to ensure compliance, it's all about ensuring that there's with the international best practices. Periodic risk assessments of the workplace, installation of safety and directional signages, that is very, very important to avoid accidents and injuries. Ensuring appropriate use of PPEs, risk assessments for hazards and identification control. They also do regular audits of port terminals and jetties and tank farms, periodic safety sensitization. Yes. Yes. Safety audits to ensure compliance and regulation, inspection and certification of cargo carrying trucks in the ports for compliance with set minimum safety standards. Joint inspection with FRLC, the Federal Road Safety Corps, to prevent occupational accidents and injuries. And then, of course, you have the safety compliance of official vehicles, and inspection of and certification of cargo train. Okay, we said that. And then inspection and monitoring and surveillance of port terminals and tank farms, fire safety audits, PPE, enforcement of safe of work or all hot work, bunkering, and hazardous cargo, and emergency response preparedness. Supply of fresh water to vessels, ensuring availability of necessary firefighting equipment, and that falls under the fire service. Environment, I'm not going to talk too much, but just know that it ensures compliance with national legislation, international convention to which Nigeria is signatory, relevant guidelines and codes of practice that apply to its port facilities. Again, it provides adequate and effective port reception facilities to ship waste management as provided for in MAPO, and prevention of environmental pollution through crude oil monitoring. The security access control services in all ports and screens all visitors going into MPA facilities, provides electronic security surveillance. Occupational health practices ensures monitoring of hazards such as noise, dust, radiation, lighting, humidity. In fact, MPA has procured a lot of equipment in that perspective, and then there's a lot of training ongoing at this time to ensure the monitoring of these hazards in the workplace. Health surveillance for early detection of occupational diseases, occupational hygiene, then there's sensitization awareness health programs. Compliance, ensuring compliance with economic standards. From time to time, they have to do that through their periodic risk assessments. They also engage the workforce in physical fitness exercises to ensure lifestyle modification. They do inspection of welfare facilities, such as canteens, kitchenettes, conveniences, gym facilities to ensure good housekeeping. And again, annual certification of first aiders and first responders. They just had a program not too long ago. Medical services, of course, I am the head of medical. We do quite a bit. Preventive care and emergency medical services. We go through the methodology of application of universal precautionary measures, like during the Ebola time. And continuously, we have to encourage regular one. I hope you people know that we are collaborating with LOM, provide advanced cardiovascular life support ambulances for emergency in all ports. I'll be done. And we conduct health promotion activities. We have a lot of committees on ground on HIV/AIDS, the Diamond Diabetic Club, which is affiliated to Diabetic Association of Nigeria, the Sickle Cell Club affiliated to Sickle Cell Foundation of Nigeria, and there is a focus on sensitization, counseling, and screening of employees. Well, we also do pre-employment examination and screening of substance abuse, pharmacovigilance to ensure radical drug use, especially in this time of opioid crisis and the codeine crisis that was discussed again by our Dr. Maimuna. Then we also conduct clinical meetings for medical updates. And we review the medical record statistics on prevailing disease among the employees to enable strategies for reduction. Human resources, of course, regular training, manpower, development, tailored towards various departmental needs, ensuring motivation and reward system, promote employee relations management and workplace conflict resolution. Now, overcoming barriers, a quick one, organizational culture, which is the mindset. Behavioral, we need to know the behavior of people, how people behave. Psychological, how do they feel? That means their attitudes, their values, their perceptions. Then situational will be what organization has, the procedures, the processes, the regulations will fall into that. And this is what that need to be. That is why we need this commitment and continuous sensitization of the workforce to be able to meet at a point together with management. Resources, skilled manpower, there is need for training of technical safety and risk specialists, train and retrain of people, provision of appropriate equipment and work tools, work environment and funding. Then the regulation. Well, all this one is known again. There's also poor reporting, please. The occupational accidents are underreported. There are also deplorable roads and access issues we need. Now, conclusion. Occupational accidents are underreported. Understanding the trend, distribution, and risk factors of accidents, fatalities, and accident causal factors and intervention remain pertinent in developing effective strategies for improvement of OSH globally. If there's one thing you must take up from this presentation, good leadership, human resource management, risk management, incident reporting are key strategies in achieving zero harm in the workplace. because this translates to increased productivity by reducing accident-related injuries, ill health, litigation claims, psychosocial and economic crises, including poverty. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ma. Next, I will invite the president of the Lagos State branch of the All Nigerian Confederation of Principals of Secondary Schools, ANCOPS, Mr. Isaac Adetolu Olatunde, for his.
Thank you very much. I will spend less than 7 minutes. I am a teacher. The DG and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. And I want to say that the Lagos Vision Zero has been put together because of me. And why did I say because of me? Because I handle students who are future leaders, who are between the age bracket of 10 to 18, 19, and every day we are exposed to harm, hazards, and danger. And if we don't want our future leaders to be in jeopardy, then there is need for us to come together and come and help us in Macedonia. My topic this afternoon says the importance of empowerment of Lagos State public school teachers with occupational safety and health knowledge. A preamble says, we work in an attempt to earn a living. And there's an adage that says, what does it profit a man who gains the whole world and you lose your life or to harm and hazard? Health is wealth. They say it's a wisdom statement. And therefore, the wise should go for safety. And that's why we always say safety na koko. We're talking about empowerment and training. The Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. If that is a simultaneous equation 1. Equation 2, Bishop Oyedepo says, if you are not informed, you may be deformed. And equation 3 says, according to management experts, that if you don't train them and empower them, you don't blame them. Therefore, if we extrapolate all this together, which means the workforce in school system, which are the teachers and the principals, we need training and empowerment about occupational health and safety. What is the essence of the training that you need to give to us? Is to promote positive social climate and smooth operation, which will, I want to let you know that Lagos State governor and government has spent so much on education, and we will not allow the gains of this democracy on education to go into ruins. We have identified, because we are in that system, we have identified some safety and healthy challenges. I put them into 2 sections, safety and health. Under safety, we have a common hazards like fire outbreak, bottles here and there, weakened railings that massive students, they rely on it and they lie on it, a chemical splash in our laboratories, and some students even use the wrongly siphon acid with pipette instead of using burette. These are common hazards happening in our schools. Serpent bite, invasion of bed bugs. You may be wondering why I should mention bed bugs. It's a challenge. Collapse of septic tanks and security hazard like kidnapping, which you are still aware that happened in one of our model colleges recently, and thank God back with their parents. Then on health, improper refuge and sewage disposal, buying and consumption of contaminated food items from vendors and roadside hawkers, spread of epidemic diseases from infected peer, drug abuse, hereditary illness management, fainting and exhaustion, fractures due to slippery faces, and so on. These are some of the challenges, health challenges and safety challenges that we have. All these things that we have mentioned, they happen every day, every second, in all our 671 secondary schools in Lagos State and 1,100 primary schools in Lagos State. Do we then say the governor and his team should come and save us? No. Which means we must be trained to handle our own matter. And this leads us to what we call behavior-based safety management, which entails the teachers, the school managers, the students, and other stakeholders to own up to their responsibility. Some of the trainings that we are expecting from you should include the definition of occupational safety and health. Then we also expect you to make us to have the knowledge of the laws and policies of occupational safety and health, which we don't know. These are the things we don't know and we need. Then we need to be guided about effective management of safety in education and learning system. Then roles and responsibilities of our employers and of the various people in that system. Then we need to also know about accidents. For example, we don't have to wait until they kidnap another set of students before we are taught, before we are trained how to manage this type of situation. I work in a model college, and when that of Ebola happened, we were all jittery in the other 27 model colleges. And we pray that that ugly incident will not happen again. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the education sector is a critical sector where we have our future leaders. These are the students. And if our future will not be in jeopardy, we need the knowledge in school system about occupational safety and health education so that our life can be saved. Thank you very much. Safety Nakoko.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your timeliness. Distinguished guests, ladies, we are gradually coasting home. I will now invite the last speaker who is going to make a presentation before we break out or we go into the breakout sessions. I will invite the Chief Medical Advisor, Rescue Technologies Limited, Dr. Abayomi Oluwakolade Folajimi, for his presentation. Please, let's put our hands together to appreciate him. P, Medical Emergency Response Plan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Still standing on the existing protocols. Okay. Now, let me begin by telling you a short story. So, some years ago, on an offshore installation, engineers were working on a project, and they were working with the pipes that was carrying fluid at very high pressures. So one of the pipes busted. It busted, and the engineers, well kitted, they had a PPE, they had a helmet on, they had a boots. But guess what happened? The pipe was moving so fast that it broke through the helmet and also broke the engineer's head, and he started bleeding on an installation. So next thing, everybody started running all over the place. What do we do? And all of a sudden, they found that they didn't have anything to stop the bleeding on the installation. There was no medic on board. There was no, even though there's some first aid materials, but there was nothing equipped to deal with that kind of emergency that they had. So what happened was they tried to move the victim to another rescue boat, but before they got there, he had died. He was dead. So what am I trying to say here is how prepared are we for workplace medical emergencies? I've been listening to speakers for the past 2 days, and people have been talking about safety, safety, safety. Seems the health part of it is silent. No matter what safety net you put in place, trust me, you can still have fatalities. I just told us about one now, all right? You can be the best safety workforce in the world, But when those barriers are broken, what happens next? Are you prepared to save a life? Are we prepared for what is to come? Okay, it's up now. Okay, let me see. Let's go back a bit. Okay, while I'm trying to sort out the slides, since it's going back from beginning to the end. So, workplace emergencies can happen anytime, right? I'm just trying to give a small outline in a very short moment. Okay, in the workplace, we all know what emergencies are. So, there are life-threatening conditions that can happen in the workplace, and we have to be prepared for when they happen. But if I will ask us, even in this auditorium, how many people have first aid box at home? How many people? Let me see your hand. You have a first aid box or kit at home. Less than 30% of the population. So even apart from the workplace, our homes, are we prepared to react to those kind of, your child can have a gas explosion. It can be anything. Are you prepared to handle those emergencies? I do. Yeah, so now, my observation is that in where we reside, in Lagos especially, we have companies all over town. So we have sectors, construction sector, manufacturing. But what I've seen when I go around is the level of preparedness when it comes to workplace health remediation. It is nothing to write home about. I'm not talking about wearing safety boots or wearing safety helmets. What's the quality of system we put in place to manage people when they get injured at work? It's not about putting one piece of cotton wool somewhere or putting one piece of plaster anywhere. It goes far beyond that. Now, so a medical emergency, like I said, I won't bother to, let's go over that. Now, what's the objective of having a plan at work? Now, please, the difference between response plan and a medical emergency response plan, there are two different things. So you can have a health and safety response plan, fire response plan, disaster, but this is a medical response plan that aims to, there are staff there who must be CPR, first aid, they must be trained in emergency care. You don't have a choice if you want to save a life at the workplace. Going back and forth. Okay, now, how do we create an effective response plan at work? That's on a medical level now. How do we do that? Very simple method, because what we've seen is that people try and do it themselves. HSC has a will, but management does not want to spend the money. They said, no, we paid for HM already, and then go to the hospital. But what happens is, it's happening on site. Before they get to the hospital, then they are dead. What do you do? So, of course, management has to have the approval by the management. Appoint a medical person, please. I've seen places where the HR is the medical doctor, HR is the HSC manager, HR is everything in some companies. So I go and meet the HR. People have different level of responsibilities. Appoint a medical doctor, please. Because by talking about medical issues there, it's not an HR issue if you fall in or if you are injured in your workplace. Then assign a medical response team, define the scope and purpose of a plan. Different industries, different risks, different hazards. What is the purpose? Conduct an assessment on what you have on ground. You're a workplace, you are 500 in nature. What are the injuries that you envisage? What happens? What's the issues like? How do you plan to mitigate against those things that have happened in the past? Draw out a plan, train your team members, conduct drills, to check your effectiveness, then monitor and evaluate with that. Let's keep that. Help you design the program. It will tell you what you get, tell you about equipment you need, tell you about how to go about auditing facilities around you. Because, again, what I've noticed is in our own environment here, you have a workplace emergency, and next thing, you just carry somebody from your facility, put him in a car, and drive to the nearest hospital. And guess what? When you get there, that hospital what they do there, they do is maternity. So many people were coordinators, HFC people, logistics people, asset people. So they can create a team for that, so that when this thing happens, you have chain of command, you have who to call, you know what to do, you know how to respond. Now, before you draw the plan, I said you have to have a purpose and scope. What is the scope of your own program? Again, your workplace will determine on what you want to do. So if you are in construction, you are able to have maybe flying objects, a lot of traumatic cases, so you plan as such. If you are in an office environment, maybe back injury or whatever it is you have, so you plan as such. It's not cast in stone, so you can design what works for your organization. Now, before you do the plan, you must do a bit of risk assessment. So, workplace hazards, what do you have there? What are the current trends you have in those industries, right? So, like I said, what kind of injuries do you have? You put that into as a factor. If you have a plan, review the plan and see whether it's working for you. Your members that will respond, are they trained? Are they certified? Do you know what they're doing? You need to. And you don't have a site clinic, trust me, you are playing with fire, because once it happens, you have, during an emergency, you have very short period before somebody just passes away. If it's a very heavy injury, before you know what's happening, the person is gone. So you must make sure that you have all these things in place, your equipment, ambulances, if you can afford it, otherwise have partnership with people that can provide that service for you. They are all very relevant. Now, what is the component of a plan, the emergency response plan? It's very simple, very, very simple. Just about 9, train first aiders. We talk about first aid all the time. Medical equipment, first aid kits, a sick bay, for the workforce, ambulance services. Then your numbers you can call during emergency. You must have centers. Where do you take these people to when they are injured in the workplace? And of course, a flow chart that will describe all these variables, so everybody can be aware. Now, this is just a sample of a plan. I'm not sure whether this is clear enough. Very, very simple. You have an emergency. What do? You activate the response team. A first aider can respond. A medic can respond. You can call for topside support. Then you refer to, if you cannot manage there, take to another hospital that they can manage for you. Then the ambulance carries the patient and to the hospital. It's a very simple plan. And that's, it's as simple and basic as that. You need to train the guys, in response skills, all kind of training that we have for first aiders and medics, basic life support, first aid level 1 to 3, whatever it is, they can be trained. And medical supplies. If you are, in a very big sector of death, and because of heart attack, that's #1 killer of Nigerians right now. He was just jogging, he just slumped. It happens every day. It happens. He went to the gym. Is slumped. An AED can save your life. Simple AED can save your life in the workplace. But I'm sure if we even ask around, how many people know what an AED is? Very few people, because we don't even know what to do with it. But these are very necessary in the workplace. They can actually save us. Yeah, and lastly, for the plan, you have to monitor and evaluate what you're doing. Like I said, is it working? Is it not working? What do we have to put in place? What are the outcomes? If you have 10 emergencies, 2 patients died, is that good enough for you? No. We say 1 0 harm, and I'll add to that, 1 0 of lives. We don't want anybody to die. So you audit and you audit your providers. You stick to standards. Nigerians will like shortcuts. I was in a factory where they had over 1,000 staff. And I saw the sick bay. There was no bed in the sick bay. They had a table and a chair and 2 or 3 drugs. And they were producing over 1,000 staff. And that's all they had to protect their workers. They work with heavy machinery, heat, they have electrical stuff, and your own workforce. Because if they're not productive, if they're dying, then what do you have to gain about that? So please, stick to standards, follow SOPs, and As I said, your staff are your greatest assets. Do the right thing. Let's avoid shortcuts and stay alive. Thank you.
Please, let's give Dr. Abba another round of applause. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was the last presentation. But let me intimate us all with the various platforms on which we can reach the Lagos State Safety Commission. On Twitter, particular program, while on Instagram, we are also available on, our address is at Lagos Vision Zero. Our address on Facebook is Vision Zero Lagos, a single word. We also have a telephone hotline. The number is 081 8100 2233. Let me take it once again. 081 8100 2233. That is the Vision Zero hotline. We can also reach the Lagos State Safety Commission on our email address is safetycommission@lagosstate.gov.ng. safetycommission@lagosstate.gov.ng. The website address is safetycommission.lagosstate.gov.ng. We will now go into our breakout sessions. We have 4 different venues that we will use. We have the Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija Hall. We have the Oba Elegushi Hall and the Nigerian Breweries PLC Hall, as well as the Chief Studies. Also on the list is Mr. Boye Oyewumi, an automobile safety specialist. Those who converge at the Oba Elegushi Hall will have Mr. Durowoju Oluwatobi,